Alright, so for this 90s Sports Nostalgia video, I want to do a video about who I thought was the most mythical athlete ever. And this was inspired by that ESPN 30 for 30 film about Bo Jackson. And in that film, people talked about mythical stories about Bo Jackson and his tremendous athleticism, and how we only got a chance to see Bo Jackson for a short period of time. And that kind of reminded me about an athlete, Rocket Ismail, who to me was just very mythical, and I'll explain the reason why. But first of all, I just want to say that there was only one Rocket. Now you have Rocket from the movie Colors, you have the Rocket Chet Stettman from the movie was a Rookie of the Year, then you also have Rocket Roger Clemens, and you have the song Rocket Man, and then Kim Jong-un has been called Rocket Man. But to me, there's only one Rocket, and then there's Rocket Ismail. So how this all started is that in 1988, there was some hardware store that had a promotion where you buy something, whatever, you get a Notre Dame football and also a Notre Dame schedule. Now, my father, he was a huge Notre Dame fan. He tried to turn me into a Notre Dame fan. And for whatever reason, I just think that the first game, see, I was a weird kid. And all I wanted to do as a kid, just I loved math, I loved numbers. That's one reason why I really love sports, was for the stats. And so when we got the schedule, the next game was Rice. And I know it was later on in the season, but it was Rice. So I was so in tune to watching this game because I was so excited for some reason just to write the final score down on the schedule. And during this game, the name Rocket Ismail came upon me. The name Rocket Ismail. And that's because he returned 2 touchdowns on kickoffs in this game. And somebody scored a lot more, but all I kept hearing was the name Rocket, Rocket, Rocket. Now, as a kid, and I'm sure for most kids perhaps, that the name Rocket is going to gravitate towards you. So when I kept hearing the name Rocket Ismail, or you kept hearing Rocket, Rocket, I thought it was just awesome. And that was part of Rocket Ismail's aura and mystique, is the name Rocket. Now, I don't even know how to pronounce his first name. I still don't know how. That's just no disrespect. Just, I know him as Rocket. And I thought I just think that that's just the coolest nickname ever to have, was Rocket. And that was tattooed on my mind. So in 1988, Notre Dame won the national championship. 1989, I kept hearing about the Rocket. And by the way, the announcers, they never called him by his first name. They always said Rocket or the Rocket Ismail. And I thought that was just awesome. And then for the 1989 season, Notre Dame, they were ranked number 4. They're playing Colorado in the Orange Bowl. Colorado was ranked number 1. Notre Dame won this game 21-6, won Colorado's national title hopes. And Notre Dame had a chance to win the national title because number 3 Michigan lost, and obviously number 1 Colorado lost, but number 2 Miami won, so Miami became national champs in 1989. So for the 1990 season, this would be the last season for the Rocket play, and I kept hearing the Rocket. The name was just so awesome, and it was big play, and it was just so, like I said, it was just so tattooed in my mind, just remembering Rocket making all these big plays. So, last game of the season, number 1 Colorado. They win this game, they have a chance to win their national championship against number 5 Notre Dame, once again in the Orange Bowl. With over a minute left to play, Colorado was forced to punt to Notre Dame, and who was back to return the punt was the Rocket. Now, I remember I went back to this, and Bill Walsh was one of the announcers. He was saying, you want to kick this away from the Rocket, kick it out of bounds. And I don't remember this play too clearly, but subconsciously, for some reason, I just think it always stuck with me, that this play always stuck with me. But what happened is, with over a minute left to play, Colorado, they went ahead, they punted to the Rocket, and the Rocket returned it for a touchdown. Notre Dame looked like that they were going to win the game, and there goes Colorado's hopes for national title. But there's a penalty called on a play. It was a questionable penalty. And that play, that's part of the Rockets' mystique of how he had a chance to win on a punt return, and it looked like it was going to happen, but there was that call. So like I said, amazing 3-year career at Notre Dame, and it just, the most entertaining, the most explosive player ever up to this point. Obviously Barry Sanders, you could argue for him, but just because of Notre Dame and how much press he was getting probably around the nation. But for me, just watching a lot of Notre Dame football at the time, Rocket was just so much part of my early childhood. But then after the 1990 college football season, he disappeared. He vanished. I didn't know where he was. Now, at that time, there wasn't any internet or nothing like that to get quick news stories. There was a projector thing that we learned in the library to get newspaper articles, whatever. At that time, I did not read newspaper articles. I was all about stats and numbers. That's all I cared about. But what happened was, the Rocket, he went to the Canadian Football League. At that time, I didn't know there was a CFL. He got paid over $18 million for 4 years, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was he was the highest paid football player in Canadian Football League or the NFL. So he got paid a huge sum of money. The Raiders, they did draft him in the 4th round, so they did have his rights. So what happened is then the Rocket, he returned to the NFL. Now, like I said, I didn't know where he went. He just vanished. I was like, wow, this great athlete, he just disappeared. He went somewhere. I don't know where he went. But then later on, for the Raiders, you know, I forgot what the moment was, but it was like pass completed to Rocket Ismail. And I'm like, wait a second. That's not the Rocket. That's not this great athlete. That's not this guy that's being overshadowed by Tim Brown or perhaps James Jett, you know, maybe Alexander Wright. But it didn't seem like, I'm like, wait a second. This isn't the same Rocket. And then he went to Carolina, and I hardly knew him in Carolina. I don't remember him at all in Carolina. But Dallas, that's where I kind of remember him the most, was when he was at Dallas. But the thing is, it was this player whose name was ingrained in my mind at such a young age, the Rocket, that he was this great athlete. He was projected to be #1 overall in the 1991 NFL draft, and then he just vanished. And then he came back. I'm like, that's not the same Rocket. That's not the same Rocket. But whatever. That's just who I thought was the most mythical athlete ever. Tell me, who do you think was the most mythical athlete ever, or any stories of some athlete that was mythical to you? And, you know, thank you so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you.